says we're live. Give it a few seconds. You're live now. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Chat with Sue. Lovely to have you here. And I hope wherever you are in the world that life is good for you. Not always easy these days. So many things going on in the world. So first of all, before I start, I just wanted to share a little story that made me really, really happy this morning, really made my heart very joyful. And that was about 4 years ago. I had a client and she was going through a really difficult time in her life. She had recently lost her heart dog and was having some real struggles with her family. And another dog came along and she decided to take this dog on. Obviously, you know, at the time she didn't think perhaps it was the best thing because of all the things that were happening in her life, but she also thought perhaps it would be a best thing for her to help her through these times. And it turned out the little dog was extremely she had extreme separation anxiety. She had extreme anxiety for just about anything. She was really, really hyperactive. She had lots of different health issues, lots of different health issues at a very young age that was causing a lot of distress because of lots of vet visits, lots of medical costs, etc. And you know, this young lady came to me and we worked for a while with her and her dog, and I tried to make things as comfortable as possible, but it was really tough for her. And several times she said to me, I can't do this, I need to give the dog back to the breeder, or, you know, find it a new home, all these kind of things. And anyway, to cut a long story short, she eventually stuck it through. She had to change a lot. She changed a lot in her life. She had to really go through all sorts of things to try and, you know, get the dog to a position where she could do things and go places and see things and find babysitters and dog sitters and all sorts of things. Anyway, it was really, really a difficult struggle for her. And today I saw, this is a couple of years on now, I saw a post that she made on Facebook and about how wonderful their relationship is now, how deeply they bonded, how incredibly what incredible deep love she feels for her dog now. And it blows my mind. It blows my mind about how relationships can turn around like that, because it was anything but that in the beginning. And it's just beautiful to see that this is now the little gem in her life. And yeah, love conquers all, and it certainly does. And it's just another reminder that the difficult dogs can always bring us sometimes the deepest love, the deepest joy, the deepest learnings. So if you feel like you're struggling, just hang in there, because you never know what's on the other side of it. So that, I thought, was a really heartwarming story this morning. So if anyone's here, if anyone's watching, good morning again. Our topic for today is focus on what is and not what isn't. And it's something that I've been thinking about a lot with as far as the words we use when we're talking about ourselves, when we're talking about our dogs. And we tend as humans to have this sort of negative bias towards all the things that are wrong. We notice things that don't go right. We notice things that aren't as we wish them to be much easier and much quicker than we notice things that are going well and going fine in our lives. And it has a function, right? It has a survival function. It keeps us alive. When we notice things aren't going well, we need to figure out how to bring balance, or we notice that things are making us scared, we do something about it. So it has a purpose. However, our brains tend to make these purposes into big stories. And this is where I think it comes in, that we start to feel the negativity starts to feel so uncomfortable that it starts to build a story of its own and get bigger and bigger and make things way out of proportion. So I think to look at them, some of the things that I wrote down here that I often feel personally that I would say, I'm not good enough, I'm not patient enough, I'm not consistent enough, I'm not knowledgeable enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not this, that, the next thing. I'm not enough in so many different ways. And it's, again, looking at the sort of negative connotations of that. Or if we look at our dogs, our dog isn't friendly. My dog isn't tolerant. They aren't calm. My dog is not what I expected to, what life should look like with a dog. And then it comes into the other things, and we notice, well, when we notice what it isn't, then we start to make stories. So if you say, my dog isn't tolerant of people, then we start to make a story, well, I can't have friends over, I can't have visitors. Now my life is becoming miserable, and now everything's not so great anymore, and I have to shrink my world and shrink my dog's world. So you can see how that whole story becomes, something that becomes a tragedy in our lives very quickly, because we have recognized something that isn't what we wanted or expected or allowed basically to happen in our lives. So the story of what isn't is what leads to our discomfort and our suffering and our discomfort, serious discomfort. So what I'm suggesting and proposing is that we look at exactly what is. But now there's this mindset thing where you say, okay, so let's say my dog isn't tolerant, right? You can't say my dog is tolerant, because that's not true. So just saying that he is tolerant is saying the opposite, is not the truth. And trying to only find the good things about him, which is great. It's lovely to find gratitude and find the positives. But sometimes our mind doesn't want to believe that. It's almost like we're trying to trick the mind into seeing that. So it's, my dog is lovely and he's wonderful and he's, he does all these wonderful things, which is true. We need to find the good things. But if we do it coming from a place of fear of not going into the negativity, then again, it's just like the brain is, no, you can say that now, but I don't believe you. And it's, we go back to the negative thing. But if we get really honest with the truth of what is, without making stories around it, that's when I believe that we can start to shift our mindsets a little bit into a place of more being at ease and acceptance and comfortable with what is. So let's take, for instance, I think I wrote some examples. So let's say, for instance, your dog is not tolerant. Go back to that one. My dog is not tolerant. Okay. And you didn't make a story out of it. You didn't say, well, he's not tolerant because, and he's not tolerant, and due to his non-tolerance, we can't do X, Y, Z, or this is what's, causing us distress in our life. We just say, my dog is not tolerant. My dog is sensitive. He's sensitive to his environment. He needs a lot of space. He doesn't feel comfortable with strangers around. So we're saying what is, but we're not giving it a story. And we're not giving it the ability to grow into a monster. We're just stating the truth. It could be our truth. It could be some truth that we've made up that we need to be careful of. Is it the real truth, or is it truth that we're making up? But if it is the truth, that's perfectly acceptable, right? My dog is sensitive. My dog needs space. My dog is uncomfortable around strangers. What if we just accepted that and started telling ourselves exactly what the truth is, without making a story around what it isn't and why it isn't and why it shouldn't be and what blah blah blah. It just is. And when we can come to that point of being able to say that aloud to ourselves or in our minds, or writing it down, write down a list of the things that your dog is, okay, positive and negative, and take away because how easy it is, I said, positive and negative. Write down the negative things, write down the positive things. What about if we took away the positive and negative and just said, this is the truth? This is what it is. It is this, and it is this, and it is this. No stories. It just is. And then sit with that for a while and see how that feels. And maybe some discomfort will come up, because when we are really honest and truthful and we look at things from the real truth of it, because this is a lot of the time why our brain takes us on these stories, is because it doesn't want to feel that discomfort. It doesn't want to feel that it wants, do something about this. This is not nice. I don't like this. Change it. But when we sit with it and just say that is the truth. I do have a sensitive dog. I do have a dog who has who needs more space and more support than most dogs. He just is. And sit with that for a while and see if you can just see if it shifts slightly. See if the honesty in it. The honesty may bring up emotion. The honesty may bring up emotions that, wow, this is the real truth. And this is the dog I have. And this is who he is or she is. And this is who I am. Without trying to change it, without trying to make a story about it, without just sit with it as it is and see how that feels for you. See how that feels. And generally, I've found that it lifts it, because suddenly it's just confronting the truth. It's not beating around the bush. It's not trying to find solutions. It's not about what it is and what it isn't. It just is. It purely is this. This is what it is. And so I'm inviting you to try that. I'm inviting you to go ahead and just try to feel into a situation by being deeply honest about it, and without creating stories, and without letting your mind wander about it, and just sit with the real truth and see if it helps to shift something. So that's it. That's my message for today. Thank you for listening. And please put in the comments below when you watch this later if you did the exercise, how it feels, and if you feel anything different. Okay. Thanks for listening. Have a lovely day, everyone. Bye now.